The Japanese plan for the Battle of Coral Sea was to form three fleets. One would invade the island of Tulagi, the second would invade Port Moresby, and the last would defend the invasions. First, the Japanese invaded the island and set up a seaplane base. Next, the Americans attacked the island with the Yorktown, while the second carrier, Lexington, refueled. The Japanese carriers were unable to strike the Yorktown because they were being delayed by bad weather. While the two carrier groups tried to find each other, the American strike force destroyed a light carrier escorting the invasion fleet, while the Japanese sunk an isolated destroyer and oil tanker. After a final battle with the four carriers, the Lexington was sunk and both Japanese carriers were damaged and could not be used in the Battle of Midway. The losses for the Americans were 3 ships sunk and 500 were killed, and for the Japanese, 2 ships were sunk and 1,000 were killed. The Battle of Midway was a decisive battle that was largely in the Americans' favor, because of radio code breakers who eavesdropped on the enemy, and the U.S. Navy who outnumbered the Japanese in aircraft with about 350 planes versus 250 Japanese planes. Not to mention, after Coral Sea, the Japanese expected the U.S. to only have 2 carriers left, when there was actually 3. The battle consisted of unending American plane strikes that all failed to cause any damage but distracted the enemy. While they were distracted, 48 dive bombers attacked the Japanese carriers. It was so unexpected that planes were still waiting to launch when the ships were bombed, and the planes all ignited in a chain of explosions. Before the last Japanese carrier was set on fire, it launched its planes to strike the Yorktown. The damaged ship was later sunk by a Japanese submarine. The losses for the Japanese were 4 carriers, a cruiser, 290 aircraft, and 2,500 people. And for the Americans, 1 carrier, a destroyer, 145 aircraft, and 300 people. The Mariana Island of Saipan was invaded by the Americans solely because of its location. Like the other Mariana Islands, it was close enough where planes launched from its airfield could bomb the Japanese mainland. Because of this, Saipan was Imperial Japan's last line of defense. The invasion started with 15 battleships shelling the beaches from far away. Next, 140 amphibious tanks moved towards the shore while shooting at any defenses. Behind them, 390 Amtraks full of soldiers moved in, while trying to avoid Japanese artillery strikes. The American air supporting ships were unopposed throughout most of the invasion. After Marines landed, they moved inland to capture villages and slowly advanced into caves where enemy artillery was hidden. Unlike other islands that the Marines had taken, these had more mountains, ravines, and caves that the Japanese ambushed from. In the jungles, Marines were often raided while they tried to sleep. The largest conflict during the Saipan invasion was when 40 tanks attacked an American camp, in the biggest tank battle of the Pacific War. The losses for the Americans were 20 amphibious tanks and 15,000 soldiers, and for Japan, 30 tanks and 16 artillery batteries were destroyed, plus 30,000 soldiers were killed.